Alright guys, here's that video of me walking through that lab for the end of week 2 in the routing and switching class. Now, first thing it says, configure the host name on S1, then you're going to configure SSH, and then you're going to do port security. They don't mention the PCs, so we're just going to go do those manually first. So there's all the IP address information. I'm going to go to PC1, click on desktop, IP config. PC1's IP address is 10.10.10.10. Now when you click here, the subnet mask automatically defaults to class A, but that's not what you want because they want 255.255.255. So make sure you change that. And for the default gateway, we're just going to point to the switch. So remember, the switch is 10.10.10.2. Alright, going to PC2. Don't forget to change his default gateway and point him to switch. Now in the real world we would typically point to a router, but we'll just leave it like that. Alright, and you can see it does not change your completion percentage at all down here setting up the PCs, so you could really just skip that I guess if you wanted to. I'm just going to look at this completion percentage down here. Alright, so go to switch 1 with the following settings. So first they want a host name. I'm going to click on switch 1. I'm going to pop it here so you guys can see it. Go to CLI. Alright, so first they want a host name. So remember, enable config T. Remember, host name is just host name, and they want S1. Now they don't come right out and say, hey, make it S1, but it says configure S1 with the name. I'm going to move this over here so you guys can see the completion percentage. So when I do that, it didn't seem to change anything. Alright, now they want a banner message of the day to include the word warning. So remember, it's banner, MOTD, delimiting character. I'm just going to put warning, space, delimiting character. Oh, actually that host name did give me 3 points. Now when I do this and hit enter, now I'm up to 6 points. Now console port login and password Cisco. Now remember, the console port is line console 0. So line console 0. Now even though in the lab it's only going to grade you for putting the password on and setting for login, but you need to get in the habit of anytime you do a line, do those 4 commands I showed you. Password Cisco, login, logging synchronous, and exec timeout. And again, for the lab you can just do 30-0. Even though you don't get any extra points for the logging synchronous and exec timeout, you need to get in the habit of doing those. You need to remember what those things do. Alright, so that's the console port login and password Cisco. Now they want you to do an encrypted enable password. So remember, we need to hit exit. You could do enable password Cisco. That's the old command, not encrypted, so we don't want that. We want enable secret Cisco. So enable secret, oh, they want class. Make sure you use the passwords they tell you in the labs, otherwise it will not score you. And as I'm putting in these commands, you can see it usually takes a second or two, and you'll see the completion percentage change. Alright, so that's the encrypted password of class. Now we want to encrypt all passwords. Remember, service password encryption. That'll encrypt the rest of those. Now, here's where it gets weird. They want the management interface to have an IP address of 10.10.10.2, but they're going to assign it to VLAN 1. Now, in the real world, I don't think we'd ever do this. You know, typically we create VLAN 99. We make that the management VLAN. That's where we put the password on here. But for this lab, they want it on 1. So you're going to do interface VLAN 1. That creates the, or actually in this case, VLAN 1 is always created because VLAN 1 is created by default. So then you just do IP address. Oop, get all excited. 10.10.10.2. Don't forget that subnet mask. Alright, and that's all they want with it. So just do it. Make sure you do a no shut to bring it up, and now that's up. And now I'm up to 25%. Alright, now they want you to do the SSH portion. Now, it's a little bit different from what's in the book and the slides, and it's a long story why, but I don't know why this lab doesn't match up perfectly, but just bear with me. Alright, let's do the SSH portion. Alright, first thing they say is give it a domain name. So this part matches up. IP, got all excited. IP, oh, really? That's not cool. So IP domain name, they want cisco.com. Alright, then it says crypto key for version 2. So you're going to do crypto key generate, and remember RSA. Now it's going to ask you how big. Here's where it gets weird. You could just put in 512, but then as soon as you go to version 2 wants one bigger than 512. So in this case, just put in 1024. It'll generate your key for you. Alright, now you got to set SSH version 2. So IP SSH version 2. Remember, if you ever forget like where you're supposed to go, question mark. Okay, I can do version 1 or 2. Alright, and then username admin, but with the secret password CCNA. This is mentioned in your books. We didn't cover it in the slide. So we're going to do username, they want admin, right? Yeah, admin. Now, if you stop here and do question mark, you can see we talked about username admin, password blah. But you could also do username admin privilege, or you could do username admin secret and then set the password. So that's what we're going to do. Secret, and they want the password CCNA. Boom. Alright, so username admin secret CCNA. And then they want the telnet lines. Remember, VTY is for virtual terminal. They want those to only accept SSH connections and then log in locally for authentication. So we're going to go to line VTY. Now, if you don't remember how many lines there are, because you don't remember remember like a switch has about 16, the routers have 5, just hit question mark. It says you can do 0 through 15. So you're going to do 0 through 15 because we want all of them in this lab. Now they want to restrict it to SSH. Remember, that's that command transport input. Now, if you don't remember what your options are after that, question mark. I can do transport input all, none, SSH, telnet. I'm going to do SSH. And then you have to do login. Woohoo! So now, alright, that's me going too fast. I wasn't paying attention. They said, and use local login. Now, remember how we do password Cisco, enter login. We didn't do that on these lines. We did transport input SSH because we wanted to use, and then we hit login. That was wrong because login says use the password that we set. But we didn't set a password on the telnet lines. We created a username and a user password. So what we needed to type in was login local, and then the key was right there. Local login for authentication. So when I typed that in, that kind of fixed that. So again, after you do transport input SSH, you want to do login local, and that's why I got this error message because I said login, but there was no password set. We don't want a password set. We want them to use this, the username and secret password that we set previously, and that's in the local database. That's not set on the telnet lines. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Alright, let's do that last one. So I went back and played with my switch. Alright, now they want disable all unused ports. Now you're gonna have to look at your switch and see which ports are used. And an easy way to do it here in Packet Tracer is just grab a new cable and click, and you can see 1 and 2 are not showing, so you're assuming 1 and 2 are over here, and there are 2 gigabit interfaces. Now I'm going to get rid of that. Another way you can do it is obviously click on your physical switch, take a look, see how many ports you've got. You can also do options, preferences, show port labels. And, oh no, that's just the PC. Wrong one. It's options, preferences, always show port labels. And now you can see it popped up FA00 and FA01. Now I'm going to turn that off, kind of gets in the way. And that's good. Alright, so first thing I want me to do is disable all unused ports. We know 1 and 2 are being used, everything else needs to be disabled. So I go back to my switch. And first thing I want to do is interface, range, and we're doing fast Ethernet. Now we want to disable 03 space dash space through 24. So remember, there are 24 normal ports on this, so we want to do 0, or I'm sorry, we want to do 3 through 24 because we're using 1 and 2. So go into there and then do
Avast
shutdown.
virus database has been updated.
Sorry about that. All right, so that shuts those down. Then we need to do the gigabit interfaces too, because that's part of it. So we need to get out of this. Do interface, range, gig tab. Now, gigabit interfaces are 0.1 to 2. Sorry. 1.1 to 2. Okay. So the gigabit range are 1-1 through 2. And then again, remember, it's shut down. And now those are shut down. Exit. All right, so that's what we did. We disabled all unused ports, 3 through 24 on the normal, and then 1 and 2 on the gigabit side. Now it says set the interface mode to access. So now we're going to start talking about the 2 ports we're actually using. So interface, range, fast Ethernet, 0.1 space 2, because I want to do them both at the same time. So the 2 ports I'm using, they want those to be access ports. So switch port access, switch port mode access, got all excited. So switch port mode access sets those access ports. Now enable port security to allow only 2 hosts per port. So remember, in order to enable host security, it's switch port I always forget that. Boom. That turns port security on. Now they want to say, hey, only 2 hosts per port. So that's that maximum command. So switch port security maximum 2. And I'm going to move this back over so you can see the completion percentage as it comes up. Alright, now they say record the MAC addresses in the running configuration. So remember, up arrow is your friend. Switchboard, blah blah blah, MAC address, sticky wiki. Alright, then one more, they want to ensure the port violations disable, blah blah. So violation shutdown. Boom. So remember this, just like from the slides, just like we talked about, you do switch port mode access to change it to an access port. An access port can only get 1 VLAN at a time, where a trunk port can get multiple VLANs at a time. Alright, then you got to turn on port security, set the maximum, set the what do you want to do when it violates. Do you want to protect? Do you want to restrict? Do you want to shut down? And then set the MAC addresses that you want, and you're all set. Alright, you can see my completion percentage is 100. You should be all set with that lab. Just don't make that mistake I did. Just do log on local when you set that SSH down here, and you'll be all set. Alright guys, good luck.